I'm so excited because today we're going to be talking about how having to clean your plate as a child and how being told that you need to make a happy plate is part of the reason why you have an unhealthy relationship with food now as an adult. And I think this conversation is really important because one of my biggest goals is to help you understand why your relationship with food got broken in the first place. Like, I want you to understand, I always say that my biggest goal is to help you understand the why behind it all. Why are you doing this? Why are you even getting healthy in the first place? Why did you fail at your goal last week? Like, why did you set that goal and then not be able to achieve it? Or why did you set the goal and then you were able to achieve it? Like, what made that possible? How did that happen? Why did that happen last week? Or why do you have an unhealthy relationship with food now as an adult? And a lot of times it came from the things that happened to you as a child. And so today I want to dig into that with you. I just hosted my free Heal Your Relationship with Food challenge. This is my signature challenge that I do once a year, every single year. And it's always the biggest hit. Like, people love this challenge because they want to have a healthier relationship with food. I think by now we are all recognizing that if you have an unhealthy relationship with food, it stunts your entire health growth, right? Like, if you're not able to look at food neutrally, if you're not able to consistently eat healthy, then a lot of times it's because you have an unhealthy relationship with food. And without a healthy relationship with food, you are just going to continue bouncing between diet to diet. You are just going to continue giving up on yourself every single time you start a new diet. You're going to continue to feel frustrated. You're going to feel like you're stuck in a loop, and you're never going to feel like you truly are living the healthy life that you could be living if you didn't have an unhealthy relationship with food. So I think by now we've all kind of recognized that, and so this is always my biggest challenge of the year. So many women come to this challenge. They sign up for it. A lot of them come live, which is so exciting and fun. And in the very first call this year, I helped the women who came to really understand the root of their unhealthy relationship with food. What caused it? Go back in time, look at the experiences that you had, the conversations that were had around you, and figure out where this unhealthy relationship with food came from. Why are you in this situation as an adult? And when you can understand that, I'm telling you, it's like so much easier to heal the relationship with food if you understand why it broke in the first place. If you understand what's causing the problem, then you can get to that problem. It's like if you had a leak in your house. If you just know you have a leak, you're like, well, oh my gosh, like, what do we do? And you're trying to turn off the water, and you're just maybe shooting into the dark to figure out how to get rid of this leak. But if you can say, we have a leak and it's in exactly this spot in our house, then you can go to that spot, patch the hole or replace the pipe or whatever needs to be done, and then you can go on about your business and you have a completely fine home because you were able to find the exact spot that needed to be fixed. That's what I'm talking about here. You need to be able to understand what is the exact thing that needs to be worked on with my relationship with food, and that's how you get to push forward. And while we were having that conversation during the challenge a couple of weeks ago, this conversation came up as one of the reasons why so many of the women who were there have an unhealthy relationship with food now as an adult. And that is because they were told for so long, you have to make a happy plate, you have to clean your plate, you're not leaving this table until everything is gone from that plate. And that has led to them having some trouble around food now as an adult. And so I want to talk about what is the long-term effects of you being told that as a child, and how can we now make progress to get rid of it. So I'm going to explain what the effects are, and then I'm going to give you 3 things that you can begin doing to start to remedy that and start to heal that piece of your broken relationship with food. The first thing that I think is the biggest challenge, and I think is the number one thing that is like the biggest long-term side effect of you being told that you have to clean your plate as a child, is that now as an adult, you don't know what your hunger and fullness cues are. Now as an adult, you don't know what it actually feels like to be hungry and what it actually feels like to be full. And that's a big challenge, because if you don't know those things, then what do you end up doing? You end up overeating a lot. You end up overeating often, and that is frustrating. Like, you are always leaving the restaurant or leaving the dinner table and you feel stuffed, you feel uncomfortable, and you're like, why do I keep doing this to myself? Sometimes it's a mental block, and we'll talk about that. Other times is that you physically don't know what it feels like to be full. And this is because for so long you were told that you had to clean your plate. What they were telling you that you had to do was you had to eat past your point of fullness. Kids are like the most intuitive eaters. As children, we are really, really good about knowing, I don't like that, or I'm full. I don't need any more. And so many times as adults, we try to push children past that point of being full because it's all well intentioned. We just want the kids to be full. We want them to not need a snack afterwards, right? How many times have your kids left the dinner table and then said, can I have a snack? Because the kids, they just want that like junky type food. And of course, that's a challenge that needs to be dealt with in a different way. But when we tell kids to just keep eating, even though they're saying, but I'm full, or but I don't want any more, they might not even know, especially as young children, they might not know I'm full, what that means or what that exactly feels like, but they know that they don't want any more food. And you felt that as a child too, and then your parents were like, hey, well, that's okay, but you're gonna keep eating anyway, you have to clean that plate. And that caused you to learn inherently to ignore those signals within your body and keep eating past that point. And now that feeling of discomfort feels so natural, and it's almost like that voice that's in your head that tells you when it's time to be done eating, that tells you that you're getting full. It's almost like you don't even hear that voice anymore. And I have other conversations on the podcast that are about this, where how can we start to listen to that intuition and know intuitively when we're getting full? Because it's really hard. If we've been ignoring it for so long, then it's really hard to hear it now. I always like to compare it to a child, which is funny because we're talking about that right now, but I like to compare intuition to a child. And I always like to say that if you have a child, or maybe, if you don't have any children, you maybe have a grandchild now, or maybe you babysit, or you've been around a child in some way at some point in your life, that child comes to you and they're like, hey, do you want to know what I learned at school today? And you're like, no, not really. I don't actually care what you have to say. And they're like, okay. And then they kind of walk away. Well, then the next time they're going to come to you and they're going to say, hey, I just found out this new cool thing about Pokemon. Do you want to know about this new cool thing? And you're like, no, not right now. I'm busy, but you can tell me later. And you keep doing this to the child. They keep coming to you excited to talk to you, and you keep pushing the child off, and you keep saying, no, not right now. This isn't the time. And what you're doing to that child is you're telling them that what they have to say isn't important. They need to be quiet. And then eventually that child is going to stop coming to you. They're going to stop wanting to tell you what they learned at school that day. They're going to stop wanting to tell you about the fun new thing that they learned on Pokemon, right? Our intuition is the exact same way. Our intuition is like that child. So long you were saying, I know you said that I'm full, but I'm going to ignore that. I got to keep eating because I've got to finish my food. I know that you said that we're getting full, but this is not the time. I have to finish this food that's on my plate. And you keep ignoring it, keep ignoring it, keep ignoring it. And eventually it just got quiet, because it was like, what's the point in telling her? She's not going to listen anyway. So what we have to do is we have to learn to listen to that intuition again. We have to start listening for it. And at the end of this episode, when I'm sharing how you can start to remedy this piece of your broken relationship with food, then I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can start to build back that relationship with your intuition so that you can start hearing it more and start being able to stop when you are getting full. But just know for now that one of the reasons why you overeat so often and why you don't know what it feels like to actually be hungry or to actually be full is partly because for so long you were told just keep eating past the point of full because you have to clean that plate. The second thing I want to talk about is that phrase that you heard so often as a child, and it was, we're not wasting food in this house. There's starving kids. We need to eat all our food because there's other people who are starving who would kill to have this food, right? You heard that so many times, and subconsciously what that taught you was that not wasting food and cleaning your plate was more important than your own feelings, than your own bodily signals and cues to stop eating. And so now as adults, we have to unlearn that. We have to unlearn that we have to finish this food because they're starving kids, right? That's a well-intentioned thing, just like the first is. That everything was well-intentioned when we were children, and the way that we ended up in this situation, it was all from good intentions. But now as adults, now that we have a little bit of perspective, we can say, okay, well, my 3 bites of my bagel that are left, even though there are starving kids, and I would love to help those starving kids in some way, eating these 3 bites of bagels is not helping those starving children. I could maybe donate to my local food bank, or I could donate in some way to an organization that helps with this, or I could volunteer at a food bank. If I don't have the extra money to give something, I could give my time, or in some way you could find another way to help these starving kids. But we have to remind ourselves that eating the extra food in my own home is not stopping these children from being in the situation that they're in. And there are ways to help those children, but eating the extra food is not that way. And so that's the number one thing that I would really suggest if you do struggle with this so much, especially like if you're somebody who reaches for, and I know that there's so many parents who do this, they struggle with grabbing the food that's left over on their children's plates, right? You're going to throw away the extra bites from your family's plates from dinner, and you just take bites of everybody else's food because you hate to throw food away. Remind yourself, me eating this extra food doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help my family. It doesn't help anybody else's family. It doesn't help literally anybody by me putting my body in discomfort, by me overeating, by me ignoring my fullness cues. None of this is helping anybody in any way. And so it's really having that internal conversation with yourself. And that kind of leads into the third thing, like the third long-term side effect of you being told that you have to clean your plate every single time that you get done eating, is now you regularly eat past the point of full. Now you regularly, it's like an everyday, maybe even every meal type of thing for you, where you stop listening to what your own body is saying. There may even be situations where you're like, I know that I'm full, and you actively choose to eat past that point, okay? So that is a big thing, a big long-term side effect of that. If you struggle with that, if you struggle with eating past the point of full, not knowing when you're full until it's too late, or eating off of other people's plates, those are big long-term side effects of that conditioning that you had to finish your plate every single time that you sat down to eat. So what do we do to remedy this situation? Number one thing is, now you have awareness. And I always like to say this, the only way to solve a problem is to be aware that the problem exists, right? Like the only way that we can fix the leak is to know that the leak exists. And so now, because you listened to this podcast episode, you have awareness. So check, you've already made one step in this process of overcoming this negative relationship with food that you have. So congratulations, you've already made step 1. The next step, this is something that I want you to start doing, is pausing and checking in with yourself mid-meal. So as you are getting to about the halfway point on your plate, and I want to put a little injection here, if you eat like by not putting food on a plate, you just kind of eat off of the like family style, and you just kind of dip from thing to thing, or you go to a party and you're just kind of eating off the large table, put your food on a plate. That's a side tangent, but please always do that. It's really important for not overeating. It helps you visualize how much food you have, and it really helps your body to understand the amount of food that you've already eaten. But anyways, you're getting about halfway through the food that's on your plate. Pause for a second and check in with yourself. Ask yourself, hey, how am I feeling? Am I starting to notice that I'm getting full? And you might not know what full exactly feels like, but you can understand that feeling of being overly stuffed. You know that feeling. And so ask yourself, do I feel like if I eat a few more bites, I might get to that point soon? Do I feel like I might get to the point where I could be satisfied? Like I don't need more of this food in order to walk away from this table and be satisfied with what I've eaten? So pause and check in with yourself about halfway through the meal, and then really intentionally every few bites after that, do that pause and check in again, because it's unlikely that about halfway through your meal you're going to feel full and satisfied yet, but 3 bites later you really might be there. And so pause and check in every few bites after that point and see, how am I feeling? Am I getting to the point where I'm starting to feel like I am full and satisfied and I could leave this table and go on for a few hours without needing more food? Because you don't have to overeat to get to that point. You don't have to overeat to be full and satisfied for hours. If you're eating the right foods in the right portions with enough protein and fiber and all the things, then you can go for about 4 hours without needing more food. You don't have to overeat in order to get to that point. In addition to that, the other thing that I really want you doing is putting your fork down between bites. And if you are eating something like a sandwich or a burger or something that's requiring you to use your hands to eat it, try to put that thing down between bites. And the reason for this is because without that, it's just so easy. There's nothing stopping you from just shoveling this food in. Putting your fork down requires you to slow down to eat. It requires you to take a few extra seconds to pick that fork back up, and in that time, you can begin to ask yourself, how am I feeling? Do I feel like I need more food right now? So put your fork down and allow yourself to take that time to really understand, how are you feeling? Do you feel like you need to continue eating? Or are you feeling full and satisfied? Or do you feel like you could be soon, right? That's the ultimate question here, is like, could I feel full and satisfied within my next few bites? And that really gives you the opportunity to fully savor those last few bites. That's one thing that I really appreciate now that I've really built a healthier relationship with food and am able to eat more slowly. What I really appreciate is that I'm able to take my fork and say, okay, I have like 2 more bites until I get to the point where I'm going to be full. And so I'm really going to savor these last couple of bites, versus you shovel, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so full, but I'm just going to eat this one more bite because I need to taste the food one more time. So allowing yourself to slow down, put that fork down and then pick it up every time between bites really allows you that opportunity to fully savor your meal and check in with yourself between bites. And then finally, something that I want you to practice at a restaurant, and I say at a restaurant because oftentimes at home, we're pretty good about putting the right amount of food on our plate. And if you're not, then this totally applies for at home as well. But what I've found is that a lot of times we're pretty good about putting the right amount of food for us on our plates at home, but restaurant portions are so large that we often overeat at restaurants way more often than we overeat at home. So with that being said, this is something that I want you to try at restaurants, or at restaurants and at home if you struggle with overeating at home and putting too much food on your plate there as well. What I want you to do is practice intentionally leaving a few bites on your plate. And I know that sounds crazy, but I want there to be food left on your plate because I want you to get comfortable with the fact that it's okay for there to be food left on your plate. I want you to get comfortable with walking away from the table and leaving food there, and it didn't have to go in your body. It didn't have to go in anybody else's body. It could just be left there for the trash, and that's okay. That's what I want you to get comfortable with. So practice leaving food on the table, and something that I really used to have to do when I really struggled in the beginning with overeating and sitting there while maybe my husband was finishing his plate, sitting there, even though I'm full, my food's still here because I didn't finish it all, and it's just staring at me. Something that I got really comfortable with doing was either pushing it away from me, moving it out of my line of sight, or taking my napkin and covering up the plate to where I couldn't see it anymore. This is something that I used to do a lot, and it really helped me to build that confidence in myself that I could stop eating when I was full. And then over time, I was able to just leave the food there. It's okay that I didn't finish it. I'm not hungry anymore. That's all good. I just leave it, let the waitress take it when the time was right, and move on about myself. All right, I hope that this episode was helpful in giving you a little bit of an insight into how that conversation around having to clean your plate and making a happy plate has led to you having an unhealthy relationship with food as an adult, has led to you not being able to stop whenever you're eating, not having any fullness cues and not even knowing when you're getting full, feel the need to constantly eat other people's food. And now I hope that you have a few things that you can take and start to implement to help to remedy this. If you enjoyed this episode, it really would mean so much to me if you would click the share button, share it with somebody, a friend, a coworker, a family member who you feel needs to hear this, or share it to your Instagram stories or some other platform like that. I would love so much for you to share this episode with someone. It helps me and it also helps others. So we appreciate you for doing those things. Make sure that you are subscribed to the show so that you get notifications when all of the future episodes come live. And with that being said, thanks so much for being here, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you so much. I can't wait to see you again next week. And always remember, the more you know, the more you grow.